Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of PixlFeed Radio, and I'm here with my friend Sheryl Plouffe from Plouffe Media. Sheryl, how you doing today?
I'm great, Christian. How are you?
I'm doing all right. I'm doing all right. So, for those of you that don't know, Sheryl has over 25 years of experience in broadcast media. So she knows video very well, behind the scenes and in front of the scenes, and front of the camera, I should say. And she knows what it takes to make compelling video and compelling content that creates, meaningful connections, I guess you could say, because we're all guilty of it. We know we have to put content out there, and it's not only quantity, but quality to go along with it. And I'm guilty of going for the quantity instead of quality because we're all busy, right? So I'm sure we're going to talk about that. How everybody can make great content, but you've been doing this for a long, long time, and you've done it in a very, with the big leagues, the real deal. I guess you should say TV. So before we get into it, or how people can get better at creating the content and how you can help them and all that stuff if needed, what's your background? How did you get started? How did you decide to go on your own? What's the whole journey like?
Well, I don't want to go too far back because I actually started this whole journey when I was 18.
Okay.
So the Coles Notes version is that I started hosting a TV program when I was 18 years old. And that really put me
on TV?
Yeah.
How did you do that?
No prior experience. Well, I was volunteering at a cable TV station at the time. And they tapped me and said, hey, we need a host for this show. Do you want to give it a try?
That's crazy.
Sure, I'll try it.
Yeah.
And I fell in love with it. I loved it. So it set me on a path of wanting to move into broadcasting. And I worked hard to get my big break on network television. Mm-hmm. So fast forward, and we're at a place now where I've been doing this full time as of the recording of this podcast and this episode for 4 years full time. But prior to that, I had 25 years of experience in broadcast media. 17 of those I spent as a weather presenter at the Weather Network, which is the equivalent of the Weather Channel in the United States. So I've been a weather presenter in front of millions of people full time for 17 years. I managed a news department of 17 people at one point as well. So I worked with managing reporters and digital writers, and I was managing bureaus and lots of amazing experiences. But the long and short of it is, Christian, what I've done is taken the best practices from the broadcasting industry and brought them into what I do today in terms of video marketing and helping business owners to grow their business using some of the fundamental best practices, such as interviewing, such as live streaming, such as speaking on camera. And I'm sure we'll get into it more deeply here in the conversation, but that's essentially what I do now, is help people grow their businesses using video.
Yeah, that gives you a massive advantage, because I remember, like, in school I did, TV. And then when I went to college, I actually went to a film school first before I went to actual college. So I learned a lot about being behind the scenes and editing and all that stuff. Now, this is like the 90s. So it's nothing like it is now. We have beta tapes in the editing room and all that. Yeah. But I didn't think, I always thought it's like, well, anybody can make a movie. Anybody can make a show. And yeah, anybody can do it. But, once you learn, like, I don't want to say the tricks, but the tricks of the trade, I guess you could say, or like the way it's done professionally, it certainly makes a huge difference. Like before I had like my first quote unquote real business, I worked for a bit there for a Fortune 50 company. And from that corporate structure, I learned some stuff that I still use to today, just because it works. So that background definitely gives you an advantage when it comes to, producing, content or running a business. So at one point, did you realize, like, oh my God, I have all this knowledge, all this experience, like, how can I take this on my own?
It started for me in 2013. And I started to think more about digital. And partly it was because at that point, as weather presenters, we were expected to do a lot more digitally to build the brand, not our own personal brands, but the brand of the company. Mm-hmm. And so these expectations were on us to now start Facebook and do these different things. Also, we were going into management meetings and actually just employee meetings, annual meetings, and they were talking about the investments that they were making into digital. I'm working the television department, and they were not talking about investing in television.
Right.
They were talking about investing in digital. So it's
Yeah.
like ding, 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 right? All of a sudden you start to realize, wait a minute, where is this all going? And so looking at the industry overall, we could see that there was a decline, things were changing. And I wanted to be on the side of expansion rather than the side of decline. So that's really what started for me around that time to start thinking about. And I think I've always had an entrepreneurial spirit inside of me. I just didn't know how that would manifest itself. So it started on this journey. I started traveling, going to seminars and taking courses and learning about marketing. And it's interesting because broadcasting is it's a natural progression, in my opinion, to go from broadcasting into marketing, because it's essentially what you're doing already. Yeah. You're just doing it for someone else. And so the model is very similar. Create amazing content, draw an audience, have them come back for more, and then monetize it. And it's exactly the same thing that we do in the entrepreneurial side of things. So these were all the thoughts that were in my head. It took several years for me to get to a point where I went out on my own full time, but that was when it all started for me, was 2013.
And so when you went on your own in 2013, what was the main basic structure that you decided to take with you? For those that don't know, how do you put a structure together for creating content and putting it out there?
Well, I mean, in 2013, it was when I started learning about marketing. I wasn't on my own for many, many more years. It wasn't until 2017 that I really went out on my own. But what I did was I looked at, well, what are the fundamental things that we do in broadcasting that could pertain to an entrepreneur and help them? So looking at video and trying to develop methodologies and formulas and try to make complex things simple, which I think is essentially what we want to do as marketers. It's complex things made simple, and then teach people. So I was creating these underground coaching programs and selling some things that, listen, I was taking some calculated risks in order to determine what kind of proof of concept I needed in order to feel confident to leave what was a great job. Like, that's the thing. I wasn't in a position where I was like, I mean, I had started to fall out of love with it only because there was a lot of other things that were kind of going on. But nonetheless, it's not like I had a terrible job. I had a great job. In fact, right. A lot of people who are in broadcasting would kill for a position like that, have a personal shopper and clothing allowance and all the makeup for us girls that you could ever want and need, and haircuts and highlights and all the little perks that come along with it. You walk into the dressing room and you see little gifts and swag just sitting there with your name on it. I mean, these are nice little perks, but it wasn't what was fulfilling me. Yeah. So that's why I felt like I had to move on, was because it wasn't really in my heart anymore.
No, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. I mean, if you don't feel it anymore, you got to move on. I mean, like my first business had it was a great business, but towards the end of it, I hated it. And right. That's when I decided to do a complete change, and I'm glad I did. And it's a tough change, especially when you're used to it for so long. So I can understand why you would do that. And, obviously you're happy now. So it worked out. So when you made the leap, what was the first thing that you did? Because you were already learning marketing and all that. So what was the first thing that you did? Because, at this point, okay, I'm leaving my job, or were you getting clients on the side and students on the side and then left the job? How did that transition go?
Yeah, I did have some clients, and I had already been doing some work before I went full-time to do this. But when I first started, I was focused on something very different than what I'm focused on now in our post-COVID world. Before COVID, I was more about teaching people how to do the technical side, how to edit videos. I'm a self-taught editor myself. And I figured that, gee, if I could learn it, so can anyone, because I am, quote unquote, the talent, the on-air talent. And typically on-air talent doesn't do the technical side.
Right.
The on-air talent does the in front of the camera stuff. And I taught myself to do the behind the scenes production and I was really, I kind of became a bit of a tech nerd. And I thought, well, that's what I'll teach them, because if I can learn it, so can they. So I created courses and I had programs, and I was teaching people how to edit their videos and more the technical side, which was okay, Christian, but it wasn't the bang out success that I had hoped, because what I realized, I was giving them everything. I'm like, I'm showing them exactly what to do, but yet why are so many people not actioning it? Why are they not? Some of them did, but not all of them did.
Right.
And that was a bit alarming for me. And I thought, okay, well, there's something missing here. And it wasn't until, frankly, around COVID, when COVID started happening, and I had this epiphany, and I realized, oh, wait a minute, you know what? They shouldn't be focusing on learning how to edit right now, because I became proficient at editing over the course of years. And I kind of forgot about that. It's the curse of knowledge, right? It's like when you know something, you know it, and you go, well, why don't you know it? I'm going to teach it to you, and here it is. Yeah. And they weren't catching on. And I realized, oh, wait a minute, it took me years to actually become proficient at this. They don't have that kind of time anymore. So what I realized was my focus had to shift away from technology and editing per se, and move toward more for speaking on camera and doing it live. Because a lot of people circumvents the whole post-production, which is the problem that they're having.
Yeah, and a lot of people have that problem. They can't get on a camera and just go. Like I've always been a natural since I was a kid. I was in front of a camera, in front of a camera my whole life. Like my parents had like handy cams and all that stuff in the 80s, and I was the kid who would steal it and make movies with it. And I was the center. I had to be the center of attention. So like I did school plays, school shows, and every chance I get, I will get on a mic. So which explains this, and and so for me, it's natural. Like a camera to me is nothing. It's like just sitting in the room talking to you face to face, or there could be a million people like watching me right now, and it wouldn't make a difference of how I act or how I feel right now. But why do you think a lot of people have a hard time getting in front of the camera? Isn't it amazing how just like a little piece of plastic with a mirror on it can scare people or like make them tense up? What do you think that is?
Well, it's fear. And you and I don't have that fear, because we have, and I've coined it as the breakthrough. You achieved your breakthrough maybe when you were a kid and you just lost your fear of speaking in front of people and having that attention on you and eyeballs looking at you. I lost that, around maybe about 15 to 18 years old, in that range. Prior to that, I was painfully shy, and I would cry if the teacher called on me in class. So I think that each of us has to get to a point where we get to this, what I call the breakthrough, which is when you start to not have that sense of nervousness or apprehension, and you're okay with it. You might still have a little bit of a butterfly, but it's okay. You can do it. You can get out there and speak in front of people. So I think for everyone, that happens at a different point in life. To answer your question about why, it's fear. People are afraid of what will my friends and family think? What if I get this wrong? What if I go out there and I do this live video, or I publish this content and I change my mind? What if in 5 years, I don't believe the same thing that I believed today? And that's out there forevermore. People get so messed up in their heads around all of that. It's fear at the core of it. And often it's they don't know what to say. Sometimes it has to do with they don't have enough clarity. And I'm not saying you need 100% clarity, but you have to have some sense of what you want to represent. You have to have some idea of what it is that you want to talk about, so that you can at least take those imperfect steps. And it's through the process of creating content, as you probably well know, that brings the clarity. Right. It's not waiting for it to be cleared before you start. It's starting so that you can become clear. And it's through that process that you just keep going and rinse and repeat.
I just tell people, like, just start recording. Like, just start recording. Absolutely. And just put it out there. Who cares? Like, I tell them all the time, like, listen, once I shoot the video for like the YouTube channel or whatever, once I'm done, it goes to my editing guy, because I don't have the time to edit, and he does it. It goes up, and I never watch it again, ever. It's like it was the moment that I lived through it, and that was it. Like, I don't watch it again, and it's not because I don't want to see myself on camera or anything like that. It's just, it's done. I was in the moment. Why do I need to sit there and watch it and go back to what I said? I stick by it, and if I change my mind later, I'll say, hey, I know I said this before, but you know what? I changed my mind. But then again, it's like, it's a good point that you brought up. I was like the class clown growing up. Again, attention. And I still remember to this day, like when I had to take speech in college, I remember all these kids, like they will have to memorize every single line, every single word. And like, they will literally, like, I had a friend who will literally like sweat before getting in front of the class. And he was like, dude, I'm so jealous of you, because I will literally go in there, just write down like 5 sentences in a, flashcard, like 3x5 or whatever it's called. And I would just go in front of the class and just start running my mouth. And it's just like, I guess that's why I'm good at what I do. It's just, I guess practice will help. I'm sure like some people will still get the butterflies and stuff like that. And listen, I've spoken in front of like huge audiences too. And I get the butterflies before I go on stage. I mean, it's just, I'm a human being.
Natural. Yeah, absolutely.
But, you know, it's like, you get that. And once I'm like, all right, once I get out there, it is what it is. But so when you're teaching this stuff, you know, how are you teaching people, you know, how do you teach them to get over that fear or how to deal with it? Well, because a lot of people, I know a lot of business owners, one of my really good friends, he's really good at what he does. He's in real estate, amazing. And I tell him all the time, like, dude, your business will be like 15 times bigger if you would just create one video a day on Facebook. That's it. And just run it locally. That's all you got to do. And he won't get in front of the camera, which is weird because in person, he'll talk your ear off all day long. So, you know, so how do you teach these people to get over that fear of being in front of the camera?
Well, it's not even so much that I want to encourage people to get over their fear as much as I want them to embrace the fact that that's how they're feeling. It's okay and natural to feel that way. Even for you and I, if we were to get in front of a group of people, we might have a little bit of a butterflies in our stomach, but I say embrace that as opposed to, oh, I've got to get rid of these butterflies or I have to get rid of my nerves. No, just own it, accept it, and just go, it's there. It's okay. You're not going to melt when you do that video. You're not going to, you know, implode. Like everything, the world will continue to turn, but I think people put so much pressure on themselves for perfection, right? They just want to be like, I need to be professional. I need to be perfect. This has to be perfect. And it isn't about that at all. It's always about progress. So how do I help people get over that fear? Well, first of all, I think that at some point they do have to take action. The fear is there. Own it, live with it. It's going to be okay. You will survive. Yeah, you're going to do it anyway. And they do often need that push. And so that's what we help them to do is we say, we're here to support you, go out and do it. The best time for you to do it is now, because in most cases with the people I'm working with, they might not have huge audiences. That's the problem they're trying to solve. Right. So it's a good time to get these first, 30 live streams out of the way as fast as possible because you don't have a huge audience yet. Now's the time to do that. Get it done.
I didn't get anything on my YouTube channel for the first, I think it was, I don't know, the first month or two, like literally no one watched a single video. And I was putting out 3 videos a week. And it took a good year for it to start gaining like real traction. And now it's like skyrocketing after I got monetized because of course I'm making money off of it. But I think people give up before they see that jump in the algorithms, whether it's Facebook, YouTube, or whatever you put it out there. And that's the biggest mistake. And listen, there was many days where I'm like, why am I doing this? Like, this doesn't make me any money. It's never going to make me what I make now. It's like, why am I doing this? And, but I kept doing it and I'm still doing it to this day. So
it's interesting because I see this a lot where people say, okay, video, they go, yeah, I know the whole world's doing video. I know I need to do it. And sometimes I'll get on calls with people and I'll say, okay, great. Well, tell me about your history with video and what has happened. They'll say, well, video doesn't work for me. And I go, oh, well, great. Well, explain why. And they go, well, I did my 5 videos and I don't have, I'm not at 6 figures yet.
I'm not rich yet. Yeah.
And it's like, okay, so how many videos did you do? And they'll say, well, I did 5. And I go, okay, well, here's the problem. It's going to take more than 5 videos.
Yeah.
And so, but it's not their fault necessarily. It's just that they might see their and each of those 5 videos has millions of views and they go, well, that must be it. That's must be all I need. They don't see all the work, like you said about your YouTube channel. They don't see all the videos that didn't have all the views prior to you hitting, monetization and then starting to get thousands of views on your videos and things like that. So it's 3 things. One is that you have to find the courage. Sometimes it is as simple as that. Dig deep, find the courage. Maybe you need somebody to help you, to push you in that direction. Courage is number 1. Second, commitment. You have to be committed to the process. And don't make it about you. Make it about serving your audience. If you take the pressure off of yourself, that's often what is needed because people put so much pressure on themselves to be perfect. They're making it too much about them. And it's like, if you make it about other people and you're there to serve them, it's like a weight will be lifted off your shoulders. You might still feel a bit nervous, but if you make it about them, that will help. Be committed to the process for them, not for you. And then the third thing is the confidence comes as a result of that, in my opinion. It's when the confidence starts to work unto itself, and all of a sudden you get a comment or something somebody says, or maybe somebody shared your now you feel good. You're like, oh my gosh, somebody cares. And that's ultimately what people want. They just want to know that people care about them, and that what they're saying and what they're sharing is valuable. It might take a while for us to get that proof, but it will happen in time if you're committed to the process.
Yeah, I mean, from experience, the algorithms will reward you if you're consistent about it. Like, I'm telling you, like, you just keep doing it. And I mean, now that I see the numbers and everything like that, I was like, there's no way I'm going to stop now, because I know what's coming. And it's like, the biggest deal is coming up with that content. You know, when I started, or this is probably for anybody, it's like, okay, like, for example, my channel is mainly Facebook ads and digital media. So I was like, oh, I can talk about Facebook ads all day long. I've been doing it for a decade. And then after, like, I don't know, 25 videos or something, I was like, I don't know what else to talk about. Like, you know, how can I go deeper into this topic, or how can I spin this a different way? Because I wasn't getting any comments at the time. So it wasn't like, hey, can you do a video about this? Or, hey, can you do a video about that? And the issue is that I'm so deep in this world, and the people that I hang out with are either on my level or higher than I am in terms of knowledge. So when I'm talking to them on an everyday basis, everything we talked about to me is normal. To me, it's like basic stuff. But then I'll mention it somewhere, and they're like, "What?" Somebody's like, "What? Can you explain that?" And I'm like, "Oh man, I gotta go back. I gotta go back to when I started." And you know, that was one of the biggest issues. You know, creating all types of content that clicks with everyone, and having fresh content on top of it every week, or, you know, every few days. So when you sit down with somebody and they're sitting down to make a plan, and when you're helping them put a plan for content, what is that process like?
Well, one of the things that first of all, one of the things I teach in Cash In on Camera is how to capture moments of inspiration, like what you just described. When someone comments on a video that you've done, whether it's YouTube or Facebook or anywhere, and someone asks a probing question, have a system by which you can capture that and then add it to your, what I call, video idea bank, so that you can go back to it and revisit it as an idea for a future video. It's the lowest hanging fruit. Someone's already asking you that question, so you might as well capture it. So just, that's thing one, is just having a system for that. But the second part of it from a strategic perspective is I like to do content pillars. So I say, what I like to do is say, what do you want to be known for? Right? And that is sometimes a difficult question for people to answer. What do you want? What do you want to be known for? And then digging into that and saying, okay, well, what are the 3 content pillars that you want to talk about? Maybe some people might have 2, maybe you have 4, say 3, but have some idea of compartmentalizing the areas in which you want to talk about based on the problems that that person has, the person that you're trying to ideally attract. And it's interesting, Christian, because I was actually just doing this exercise for my own self recently, because I think it's one of those things where you want to do it periodically. So I came up with marketing, profitability, and obscurity. So those are the 3 problems that my people are facing. Mm-hmm. And I think it's a good exercise to do every so often, so that you can sort of say, okay, great. Now, if I know that marketing is a problem for them, why? What are the issues that they're facing around marketing? And then you're just kind of going deeper and deeper. The next section of that would be then, okay, great. We know what the issue is, but why are they not able to solve it? Now we're getting at the nitty gritty of the topics that would be best for you to build out on your YouTube channel or live streams, whatever platforms that's going to be.
So I remember when I went to film school, we, like, you know, in the writing room or whatever, the writer's room, we had like a wall, and then we would just put like Post-it notes with ideas for brainstorming. Yeah. I still do it. I have a whiteboard right here to my left, where like every time I get an idea, I just like to write it down on something. I could use my phone, I can use a million things on my computer, but I want to see it every day when I walk in. And that helps me a lot. And that's how like real writers do it in a writing room, like for like, you know, TV. So any recommendations on how to keep that, you know, organized, that like you said, the pillars have the different pillars based on the topic, and then underneath those, every time you get an idea, just write like one word or one question or anything like, and keep track of that?
I mean, on a physical perspective, from a physical perspective, yeah, you could have a board, like a whiteboard. We have sticky notes. Really, it's whatever works for you. We do it with Airtable. So we do it on a digital spreadsheet type of format. But, and I like it because now you can categorize those things and I can tag them appropriately. It's just more the digital way of doing it. But frankly, it could be in a notebook. It doesn't matter. It's whatever system is really going to work for you. The most important thing is to have a system, is to have some way that you can stay focused on what is my subject matter expertise and what is going to be the focus of the content I create. Because at the beginning of our interview today, you really hit on something, which was the importance of content. We live in the attention economy, and content is the currency that is being utilized today. That's what we trade. So it's like, if you're not creating content, you are as good as invisible in this world. The world has changed. I know there are a lot of people who want to wish it was the same way it was before. It isn't. The world has changed. Are you changing with it, or are you still marketing like it's 1999? And I am a huge Prince fan, but I don't recommend that people market like it's 1999. It's right. Like, you want to market for how we work today. And that's obviously, you do more in the e-commerce and advertising, and that's all awesome. So I work more on the organic side, but you have to be creating content. And what does that mean? It means showing that you are a subject matter expert. That's my opinion, is the best way is to demonstrate, like Frank Kern says, the best way to demonstrate to people that you can help them is by actually helping them.
I love Frank Kern.
So it's so true.
He's such a trip. I'm laughing because he was doing something yesterday, and
he's awesome.
He was cracking me up. Yeah. He's a character, that's for sure.
Yes,
man.
For sure.
So sorry, I got sidetracked because I just remember that from yesterday. So okay. So now that we have content, we got over the fear. Let's move into the next step. Now you got to record. So
yeah,
a lot of people think that they have to go out and get, a Sony A6400 and all these lights and all this stuff. And I tell them, like, no, man, you got your phone. Just use your phone. I tell you guys a little secret. My business partner on my newest store, she takes the pictures herself for the products with a LED light on a white background on her phone. And then they get photoshopped by my graphic designer. And they look just the same as when I used to take them with my A6400 Sony in a professional setting. That tells you that how far phones have come. You can actually, for those of you who have a cell phone or even an Android, you can go under, people who know this, you can go under settings and you can change your settings on the camera to like literally 4K. That's like a 4K camera. So I'm sure you're going to agree with me. Pull out your phone, right?
Absolutely. No doubt about it. People are focusing on the wrong things. And it comes back to fear, what we were talking about earlier. The reason why people are so obsessed with, oh, I have to have the camera and I can't do this until I have the tripod, and I'm going to spend 8 hours on Amazon researching every review under the sun, is because they're actually using that as an excuse for not doing the thing that they know they should be doing, which is speaking on camera and sharing their knowledge and sharing their expertise, because there's fear. And it's the easiest thing to hang on to. It's like, well, I can't do the video. I don't have a camera. Well, I can't do it.
I've done it before.
I can't do it. I don't have the tripod. So I guess I can't. No, it's really about figure it out, guys. Amazon, literally, you can order something. It's on your doorstep tomorrow. That's not the issue. The issue is people have fear. So everyone has a phone. So yes, you can definitely, in fact, it's interesting, Christian, we were talking about YouTube. My YouTube video that just, as of the recording here, just crossed 1 million views on what?
Congrats, that's awesome.
Yeah, 1 million views on my channel. It's interesting when and I did it in under a year organically, no ads. And I published that video at a time before my channel was even monetized. So I had less than 1,000 subscribers when I published that video. And within 11 months, it reached 1 million views organically. And that was done on a phone.
Yeah, amazing. Now I got to ask, what was the video about?
It was about green screen, Zoom green screen technology.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
1 million
and I have
views.
I have a lot of other videos. In fact, I would say all of the videos, frankly, of my channel in the last many years have all been on my phone.
Yeah, no, I checked out your channel.
228,000.
I was like, yeah, I was like, she's got obviously more subscribers than I do, and a lot of her videos are like just normal videos. They're not like super produced, overproduced stuff, like, you know, like crazy.
No.
You know, I tell people all the time, like, my videos is just one take. That's it. One take, done. Whatever comes out of my mouth, that's it. Yep. And there's no fancy editing. You know, I see all these channels with like super duper. I'm like, I don't have time for that. Like, YouTube is just secondary to what I do, and it's to help other people. And yes, of course, I'm going to make money off of it. But again, it's not going to replace my main source of income. So, you know, I don't have a production team around me to edit all my videos and write all the scripts. That's just me, camera on, record, shut it off, editing, done. Which brings me to the next one. So how do you recommend, what editing apps or software do you recommend people to use to edit their videos?
Well, I think there's two things. I believe that business owners benefit from having two types of videos, live stream and recorded video. I used to teach it in the opposite way, where I would say, start with recorded video, and then I'll teach you how to go live. Now I teach it the opposite way. My belief now is that people should start with live streaming and cut their teeth and speak about their topic and generate interest and audience doing it live first. Then let's talk about the recorded stuff. But let's say we're at that point where you're like, yeah, it's time to start doing recorded video. A few ways you can do it. One is that you can edit videos entirely on your phone using video editing apps. And so my two favorite are Video Shop and InShot. Those are my two. I
use InShot. I love InShot.
Yeah, I love it. It's great. Listen, if you find a video editing app that you love, if you love iMovie and you know how to use it, right? Go ahead and use it. Video editing apps are amazing, and that you can produce. In fact, I'm going to produce about 5 videos today for one of my clients on my phone for this specific kind of video that we're creating that we have to do quickly. We have to turn it around really quickly. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to produce that on the phone. You can do it too. The other thing is, if you're going to produce a video, let's say on the desktop, I personally love Camtasia. Some people like ScreenFlow. Whatever tool is going to work for you. I've been using Camtasia for years. It does everything I need it to do. I have no need to reinvent that wheel or be distracted by shiny objects and have to relearn stuff that I'm only going to end up doing the same way anyway. So I stick with what I do.
I remember the first time I opened Adobe Premiere, and I haven't been in an editing room in like literally like over a decade. And I open it and I'm like,
oh my God.
I'm like, I felt like a dinosaur. I was like, how do I even get started? I'm like, I know like the timelines are here, but that's about it. Like, I was just like so lost. And it took a while for me to get the hang of it. I'm like, and I just play with it to get the basics just so I know how it works. And I was like, I can't edit my own videos, because I wanted to edit my own, because I did it a long time ago. I'm like, oh, that'll be fun. I'll edit my own videos to make them awesome. And I was like, I don't have the time for that. There's no way.
It's going on. It's one of those things, like, it's just like anything in business. Like, you have to sort of look at, well, where am I at? Do I have more time than money, or money than time? Like, where am I at? Because sometimes it isn't the best thing for you to be editing your own videos.
No,
it depends what season you're in. It depends. Do you have all kinds of things. I pride myself as a video strategist, in my opinion, is someone who looks at a situation and says, here's a strategy to go out and do this. So I would look at things like that. Do you have a team? What are their skill sets? Can they do it? Is it better for you to outsource this? We do a process that we call virtual video production. And that is a done for you service that we have crafted for that very reason, because there are people who really should not be doing their own videos. So but if you are going to do it and you're going to learn that skill, whether it's a Camtasia or an Adobe Premiere or Final Cut Pro, which, I mean, again, some of these are high level broadcasting type tools. You don't necessarily, as an entrepreneur, need to have that much ability. Like, you have to have the fundamentals, but most of these tools will do that. So I like Camtasia for that reason. And then we start getting into some other tools like multi-streaming tools. You use Be Live. There's Ecamm. I like Restream is my favorite. There are others. So you can start talking about tech. There's like OBS is another system, open source system. I mean, there's lots of different things that you could do to do that, but it's more of a question of balancing that out and making sure that you're not trying to do something that you ought not to be doing. Because really an entrepreneur needs to be focused on income generating activities, right? And so it's like, that may well be the case. It'd be like, it is worth it for me to edit my own videos because that is an income generating activity if the structure is there that it's generating leads.
Yeah,
so
I realized
all these things have to be taken into consideration.
Yeah, I realized quickly that between having to shoot the videos and then everything else that I have going on, and then I did the first one, I was like, even if because I know I'll get the hang of Adobe all the way after a couple out, a few hours of whatever, a couple weeks. I was like, even if I get this down where I can edit a video on the fly, like I don't have the time. So I realized day one, I was like, okay, I got to outsource this. I can't do it. I just can't. And because I was losing money, the hours I would spend, editing a video, it's money out of my pocket or time that I'm losing with, now I have a kid with my family, whether it's on a Saturday or, in the afternoon, which that's already pushing it depending on the day. So I was like, no, outsource it. So one of my favorite things though for social media and other platforms is I personally call it the Hydra theory. And that's how it was thought to me years and years and years ago. And I wish I could give props to whoever came up with that name, but I don't remember who it was. And it's basically, you can grab one piece of content and then chop it up. And it's like the hydras, the heads just keep growing because it just gets chopped up into like 20 different pieces of content. And then you can share them on like Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. What's your take on that?
I'm a big fan. In fact, it's really the whole premise of our service that we do, because I interview someone on Zoom for an hour, and that is the macro piece, right? So the macro content is the 1 hour interview. And then we create 12 pieces of micro content from that piece, from that interview. So we're essentially doing a service where I interview someone for an hour and can create up to 3 months worth of video content for them from that 1 hour interview, by virtue of the fact that, let's say, if you were adhering to a once per week schedule of content. So I'm a big fan of it. I think it is definitely, and I'm always looking at my own stuff too and retweaking how I do it in terms of macro to micro content. I think it's important to look at that and have systems by which to do that as well. Really, really key.
And as far as like, we're about to run out of time, but about, when posting online on the social media channels, when you have all, the students and the business owners create all the content, how often are you recommending they post daily on each platform? Because that can be very time consuming unless you have the tools like Later or something like that to schedule it out.
Yeah. I think on YouTube, it's definitely a once per week minimum type of thing. I know you were saying you were doing 3 times per week, which is awesome, but I think minimum it's once per week. If you're talking about Instagram, there's so much involved with Instagram. Stories you want to be doing daily. I think Reels you want to be aiming for 2 to 3 per week. Lives maybe a couple per week. Posts.
Yeah, I got the deck from Facebook on Instagram organic reach, and I was like, dude, this is like a full-time job. Like, even if I was a teenager with nothing else to do, like I wouldn't have the time to create all this stuff.
See, the problem though, Christian, I think is that I certainly see this too. People come in fact, I had someone just recently saying, well, I was told that I need to go on TikTok. And I go, okay, well, let's examine that. Are your audience members on TikTok? Like, are the people you want to attract even on TikTok? Like, so, and he was dealing with people who were like scientists or something. And I'm like, okay, like, let's talk about that, because just because someone else recommended that doesn't necessarily mean you need to be going on TikTok 5 times a day, dancing or whatever, so people just like, their strategies are all kind of all over the map, and they're doing things just because they see other people doing it, and as opposed to having like an actual strategy and starting at the basic level of saying, okay, well, who are you? And that's why I always start with, what do you want to be known for? What do you want to be known for? And who is it that you are looking to attract? It has to start there, the fundamentals first. Then we can start building out, this is where they're at, this is where they're at, building out a strategy to do it. But the content doesn't create itself. That is one of the problems, right? The content does need to be created, and you can have some efficient systems by which to create it.
No, and I tell people all the time too, from experience, it's like, listen, because people say, oh, I got to be everywhere. I'm like, I'm not even everywhere. I'm not. And, it's like at one point, sure, it'll get distributed all over the place. But, I'm a big believer of bootstrapping. And when the money comes in, then you add more and more and more, because I'm not in a hurry, you know, and I'm playing a marathon here. And I tell them, like, listen, yes, I have all the accounts with the screen names saved and all that stuff, but guess what? I'm never on Instagram. I'm never on TikTok unless I'm like, you know, just for fun. And I think that's why people get overwhelmed. They feel like they have to be on every platform right away. It's like, no, man, pick the platform that's the most comfortable for you as a person, and that where your audience is at. So if you're a local car dealership, you know, you might get some tons of views on, you know, TikTok because the organic reach still wide open, but it's going to be views all over the world. It's not going to be your local market of who's going to come in and buy a car from you. You should be doing that on Facebook, you know, where the people with all their demographics are at that will actually have the money to come in and spend. Maybe Instagram, but pick one, stick to it. And then once it's mastered, then grab that content and maybe chop it up for the other ones, but you don't have to do all of them at the same time.
You want to run, you want to walk before you run. I mean, and again, it comes back to, well, what stage of it are you at? If you're at the earliest stages and you don't even have your offer dialed in, like you need a business coach at that point. You have to figure out some fundamental things about what it is that you want to package. What are you selling? You know, have a brand strategy before you start looking at a marketing strategy. So what happens sometimes, I think, is people go out and they just start marketing. They go, I need to market. Okay, so they're marketing something and they don't even really know what they're marketing. They don't have, and it's like, you have to walk before you run. And I think that that's ultimately what we hope to support people to do. My
favorite is like, hey man, but Gary Vee says you have to be everywhere. I'm like, Gary Vee has a whole freaking camera crew that follows him 24/7 and a whole team behind him to put the content out there. You're not Gary Vee. Do I agree with him? Yes, but trust me, he didn't start that way. He started on his own, and it took years and years and years. People don't realize he's been around forever. Like if you dig on YouTube.
He started out tweeting, right?
Yeah.
He would go on for 8 hours a day and he would tweet and then he would respond. And he would sit there for hours and hours responding to tweets.
And you can find
one person, one platform with one mobile device. Like, I think that people see Gary Vee, and I'm a big fan, huge fan, but he has a whole crew of people who create reams and reams of content. But what's interesting is that the theory of it is the same, is this idea of making macro content to micro.
Yeah.
It's the same theory, but you might be, I don't mean you, but people watching or listening, you might need to start at this level to grow, you know? So maybe you start with one platform. Maybe you do a Facebook Live interview once per week on your page. And then maybe you take that one interview and you chop that up into multiple smaller pieces. Maybe you create some graphics that go along with that in Canva that support, maybe you extract something smart that person said and turn that into an image quote. Maybe, we don't know, but it's having a strategy, a content strategy means really starting at the fundamentals of what do I want to be known as? What kind of brand is it I'm creating, and who is it I'm trying to attract? Start there.
And I'll give you an example how you get there. So I'll give you my secret sauce here, my plan that's been working since day one with YouTube and all that.
I'm listening.
So when I started with YouTube, I was like, all right, I'm doing this all the way, no matter what, right? I don't care how long it takes to get monetized. So I went out, bought the camera, the tripod, the lights, and all that stuff. But I have the means, I have the money to do it. So it's not a big deal to me. Yep. And I know exact to the penny how much I spent on all of that. Okay. Then I tried to do the first video myself, and I was like, this is going to take me way too long. So I was like, you know what? I need a new graphic designer from my main side of the business. So I'll use them for the editing first and then graphic design second when we're overloaded, and he'll have plenty of time. And this is how much it's going to cost me a week, X, right? So now I know my numbers. Now I know how much it's costing me. Well, now I know how much it cost me in the first year, plus how much I pay for all the equipment. Mm-hmm. YouTube channel got monetized. This is the only place that I'm putting out content. I don't even share anything on my Facebook page unless there's a link to this YouTube channel just to throw something out there. It's very rare that I go live on my Facebook page. Now I know first 3 months, this is the third month that I've been monetized, and I've been watching the numbers like a hawk. I already made back my investment on the camera. Like, all right, cool. So now I know how much I spent on my graphic designer editor. So I'm like keeping that in mind. Once I surpass the number where I know for the rest of the year, my quote unquote payroll is covered and the cost of that camera, guess what? I know it's going to keep going up because I'm going to keep putting out content. Once I have the extra cash, I'm bringing in another member. I'm like, all right, I want you to go through every single YouTube video and I need you to chop them in like 30-second pieces and 15, and that's going to take forever. And 15-second pieces. And I want you to share all of them on Facebook and on Instagram. But I'm not in a hurry. And that's what people don't think about. It's like, listen, little by little by little. And just a YouTube channel without being monetized, the amount of business that it brought me, it's insanity. And this was with like, I just hit like 2,030 subscribers like yesterday. Yeah. So not even being monetized, like it already made all that money back a million times over, but I'm not even counting it on that because I like to see it like separate by like platform. You know what I mean? So if you put it out there, just slowly but surely keep track of your numbers. And as you grow, reinvest back into it. And I'm telling you, man, it's going to be insane. It's going to be insane if you just follow that pattern.
You have to have content. There's no doubt. That is fundamentally the thing. That's the world we live in now. We're in a digital age.
You have no choice.
You have no choice. Well, I mean, you do. You have a choice. If you don't want to grow your business and you don't want to get in front of people and you don't want them to know who you are and how you can serve them and what you're really on this planet to do in terms of maybe helping them with problems and challenges and frustrations they have, then yeah, you do have a choice. You could sit and you could still remain in the background and keep doing it the way you've always been doing it, but the world has changed. So if you don't want to change with it, then you'll stay where you are.
Listen, I fought it for the longest time. And I was like, all right, if I want to keep growing this thing, I got to put myself out there because cold email and cold calls and all referrals that can only go so far. And I'm telling you, it's the best thing I ever did. So anyway, Sheryl, we're out of time. We hit we're close to an hour. Listen, thank you so much for coming on. I really enjoyed our time here. Where can people find you if they need help putting their content plan together and getting it out there?
The best place is just to go to SherylPlouffe.com and reach out there. There's a contact button. We also have a free video plan and some free resources. There's a resources I recommend button there. Lots of things that you can take a look at. And we have, of course, I have a YouTube channel. I have a Facebook group called Cash In on Camera. So lots of different ways that we support people week in and week out.
Absolutely. So just go out there and search for Sheryl, and all the links will be down in the description. And since we were talking about YouTube, smash like button, subscribe. And then if you're listening to the podcast, leave a review. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for listening and watching. Sheryl, thanks again. I really appreciate it. And until next time.